Good morning, everyone, and it is time to do another chapter out of the Exit Lever book. So this will be chapter / mistake number 3. How hot or cold is it? So let me use an example. Temperature is relative. So let's say you get 3 buckets of water. The bucket on the right's really hot, the bucket on the left is really cold. The one in the middle is halfway between them. So you stick one hand in the hot water, you stick one hand in the cold water, and then you stick them both in the one in the middle and tell me how hot it is. So the hand that was in the hot water is going to feel cold, and the hand that was in the cold water is going to feel warm. Now, why do I say this? Because it's very similar to business valuations. The value of a business is relative to several factors. And if you don't take all those factors into account, you're going to have a problem. So before I get into, the nuts and bolts of this, I got 2 examples. I can't tell stories on this because, well, I'm not supposed to. But we ran across one where a franchisor had convinced one of their franchisees that their business was worth a lot less than what it should have been, because mostly the franchisor wanted to buy him out and open up a corporate location there. And the other situation was another business broker, group of business brokers, had convinced a seller that his business was worth way more than it should have been because they wanted the listing. You see, now both of these situations lead to a lot of problems. One, somebody's about to get screwed, and that's no good. And 2, I just did the Q3 Market Pulse video, and it'll actually be posted up the day before this video on my site. And they said the leading problem is overvaluation of businesses. On average, at the time this video is recorded, businesses are getting between 78 and 85% of their listing price. So overvaluation is a problem. A lot of people, realtors, business brokers, when they're talking to business owners, they really want to get their listing. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit more later. But let's talk about why do they get it wrong? There's an average multiplier theory. I'm gonna take the number and I'm gonna do it gross, 1 year gross, or so many years of profit or whatever, and I'm gonna take it times 2.6. The average multiplier, 2.6 times. Or they have a lack of experience, a lack of training with what's an add back on the financials, what the bank considers an add back, what's actual true economic potential of the business. How much money does the business really make? And you have to understand the process, the financials, the banks, the tax returns, and businesses to get that right. You have to be trained or experienced to get that right. Because when you get that wrong, you're leaving money on the table. There's a confusion of the valuation methods. There's, last time I checked, more than a half dozen different methods to do a valuation of a business to go to market. There's several of them that are more accepted than others, but you should know how to do all of them. You should be able to do like the multiple of EBITDA or the multiple of SDE or future earnings. You should be able to do them all, and if you don't know how to come up with the market valuation, you don't know how to value that business. And finally, the biggest problem I see a lot of people run into is they have a lack of access to data. If you're not using real world data, comparable sales, you cannot be doing it right. And when you have a fiduciary duty as a broker and a real estate agent, you have a fiduciary duty to your client to act in their best interest. And that means if you don't know what you're doing, you're in breach of your license. And you're doing a disservice to the client that's going to cost them money. And the reason a lot of people do this is, whether it's a business broker or a real estate agent, most of us, we only eat what we kill. That means if I don't sell your business, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I don't keep my lights on. I don't eat, I don't get to go do nothing, I don't get to put gas in my car, I don't get to take my wife out on date night. So that develops mentality with less experienced people, less experienced realtors and brokers. that they have to pile up a ton of listings. I have to get these listings. The more listings I have, the more likely I am to sell something. Well, as you get more experienced, you understand that that's absolutely not true. You can have 100 listings up, and if they're all horribly overpriced, you're not going to sell any of them. Any of them. Because you're listing them overpriced. It makes you look bad, makes your client look bad. And again, just did the market pulse. 78%. That's the average take-home price from listing price of a business valued under $500,000. That tells me we got a lot of people overvaluing their businesses. You know, the other side of it is, in a field where anybody that has a real estate license is technically legally allowed to sell a business, you get a lot of people that are outside their lane, a lot of people outside the wheelhouse. And it's because you get paid when you sell something. So, you know, they have a friend or someone that they sold a house for, just comes up to them, it's like, hey, you know, I got a business, I'd like to sell it, you're an agent, would you list my business for sale? And they've never done it. See, look, here at No Coast, we're business brokers. We don't sell houses. We don't sell commercial real estate. If there's commercial real estate involved, we bring on to the deal a commercial real estate agent, because I don't know what the market's like for residential real estate, and I don't know what the market's like for commercial real estate. I don't know what the lease rates are. That's not my lane. It's not our wheelhouse. Our job is to know what your business is worth and what your business will sell for, how long will it take, how much should you get, how we get it done, how to protect the parties, and how to act in your best interest on a business sale. I'm not out there selling cars. I'm not out there selling houses. I'm not out there selling commercial real estate, because it's not my wheelhouse. But a lot of people will. They'll get outside of their lane and they'll do something they're not trained for. And, you know, it typically goes bad. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, in a lot of my videos, I do talk down about real estate agents, because the long and short of it is the majority of business brokers hold a real estate license. But for every broker that holds a real estate license, there's a couple of thousand of them that don't sell businesses. And they're not trained to. And they shouldn't. But the good real estate agents, and I know several, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and I refer back and forth, and I know them in other states. When you take the time to get educated and get the resources you need to do the job the right way, I absolutely respect you for it. But if you're coming into my lane, I expect you, for the benefit of us as a profession and for our clients, to know what you're doing. So that's the thing is, you know, they don't have access to the information because it takes money. You have to have the databases, and that costs money, and most people don't. You don't have access to the listing sites because they cost money. You can't throw a business up on the MLS or the commercial MLS and hope to God that it sells. It's not the way that works. It's totally, especially in the 5 million and over market. You have to have ties with the PEG groups and the investors and the other professional buyers, and you have to know what you're doing. Comparable sales, experience. It takes 10,000 hours to become a master of your craft, and that's 10,000 hours working your craft. If this is your first, second, or third business sale, and you're not working with someone that's a master of their craft, you're doing a disservice to your client. And as the seller, as the person whose blood, sweat, and tears they're selling, you should ask. I don't work with anybody that hasn't been doing it for under 5 years. I don't refer anybody that hasn't been doing it under 5 years. And when I bring new brokers on to No Coast, they work with me and they work with Jeff. And we, I promise you, have been doing it for more than 5 years, and we will help them until they get to that point. So, when you're getting your business done, one valuation is not enough. You can't just stick your hand in the hot water and tell me it's hot. Well, what about the other two? I'm asking you about the bucket in the middle. There's many different ways to get about it, and you need to figure out a way that's going to work. You got to know how to blend them. You know, to get a truly accurate number, you need to be able to do multiple valuations, multiple methodologies of valuation, not multiple valuations, and put them together and see what works. You need to be able to do weighted averages. See, no one really cares what your business is doing this year. They care about what it's been doing. What's the history? You could be having a great year if the last 3 to 5 years were really bad. Your business is worth less money than if you were consistent or on a growth trend. Did you peak and now you're on your way down? That's why you use weighted averages. That way one bad or great event does not skew the numbers. So, I'm going to wrap this up. I got a final tip for you guys. When you go in to sell your business, you're hearing all these talks about valuations and market opinions and things like that. Let's talk about an appraisal. See, appraisals are going to cost you a lot of money. And there's a time and a place for them. Should you do an appraisal? It depends on your situation. If you go into court, you should. If you're your standard business, you should not. A bank will do an appraisal, and they will not accept yours. Now, if you have specialized equipment, you're a specialized business, there's stuff that's out of your broker's wheelhouse, and they tell you, hey, look, we should probably get this appraised because I don't know how to value this part of your business. Absolutely. But should you just get it appraised every time? No. Sit down, talk to your advisors, your professionals, and see what they come up with. But just having an appraisal done, it's not like having a whole house inspection done on a house before you list it. Having an appraisal done has very limited and diminishing returns in most situations. So, keep that in mind as a bonus tip. You guys have a great one, and I will see you next week for mistake number 4.